Chapter 320, Another Story of the Past. An old man with flowing white hair on his head and a thin white beard was flying through the air at high speeds. He was constantly clashing swords with a young woman with blue hair and pure white irises. The man's body was surrounded by a dome of heat that would melt anything it touched, while the woman was covered by a dome of coldness that would freeze everything it touched. Every time the two clashed, the two spheres would smash into each other, but so far, they haven't managed to gain any reasonable advantage against each other yet. Yet again, the duo clashed, but this time they stopped fighting for a short moment. The man eyed the young woman with disdain and started speaking in a voice that pretty much lacked arrogance. "Do you really think you can win against me, white-eyed demon?" When the woman heard what the old man had to say, she couldn't help but look at him weirdly. "Why does he make it sound like I'm the one that wanted to fight him? I was just minding my own business when he came charging at me like a bull. I don't even know what he wants from me. As for that name, Sai whatever. Recently I have started calling myself Yuna, but it seems people prefer that nickname. I will make you pay for killing my grandson." "Oh, okay. That's a sound reason, I guess. Now, I wonder who his grandson was. I, the sect master of the Supreme Flame Tiger Heaven Burning Sect, will punish you for your sins." Well, that's a mouthful. I think I've heard of it before, though. Although I still have no clue who his grandson was supposed to be. Oh well, it's not like it is the first time I'm in this kind of situation, so I will just kill him and be on my way. Well, unfortunately, I have no clue who your grandson was, but I guess it doesn't matter. Come, let's fight. The man was stunned for a short moment when he heard that Yuna didn't even know who he was talking about, and moments later, his anger exploded. "You damn demon brat dare to mock my grandson like that. You are courting death." Yuna could only roll her eyes at the man's outcry. "Why do they always claim that I'm courting death? I'm currently courting nobody, especially not death. Well, I have recently noticed that I seem to prefer women over men, but that's beside the point. Is death a woman?" Klein. The sound of two swords clashing into each other echoed over the forest the duo was currently fighting above. The same sound echoed over the forest repeatedly, and every time it was heard, large parts of the forest were frozen while other parts started burning. Clang crack. Another clash happened, but this time something changed. There was a crack in the sword the woman was holding. Although it was still okay for now, it was only a question of time until it broke completely. A deep frown appeared on Yuna's face when she saw the tear in her sword. "Well, that's bad. I like this sword. Additionally, I don't think I can win this without a sword. I was already holding back to prevent it from breaking, and now I will have to hold back even more." Meanwhile, the man laughed out loud when he saw that his opponent's weapon would break soon and proudly showed off his own, which didn't even have a nick in its blade. "Ha ha ha, it's only natural for your weapon to shatter in front of my sword. How could the weapon of a loose cultivator possibly compare with the one held by a sect master like me?" Although Yuna didn't answer him, she was of the same opinion. "Unfortunately, that is correct. As an individual, it is almost impossible for me to possess more wealth than a whole sect. Except if I were to break into one and rob them clean." A dangerous glint passed through Yuna's eyes, but she quickly suppressed her desire to rob a sect and concentrated on the fight instead. "Anyway, the situation is not great, but I have been through worse. In fact, I already survived a situation pretty similar to this one twice. I need to get rid of this weapon problem. Getting killed because my weapon was weaker is not something I can accept." The clash continued, and the damage to Yuna's weapon became worse by the second, and just a few minutes later, another loud crack was heard, and Yuna's weapon finally broke in two. Unfortunately, she was still mid-combat, so the situation was somewhat dangerous. "I need a weapon, a good one. Right now, I'm relying on finding better ones when the time comes, but that is very unreliable. Besides, every time I get a new sword, I can feel my swordsmanship take a slight dip due to not being familiar with the different sword yet. No, I need something that can follow me all the way to the top. Yuna's eyes widened when enlightenment struck her. I see, there is always that solution, huh? This won't be easy to do, but it will be worth it. The man's eyes shone in glee when his sword approached the now defenseless Yuna. He expected to finally land a proper hit, but that is not what happened. Klein. His crimson sword was blocked by a pure white one, and as soon as they made contact, the white sword broke into two, but that short time frame was enough to evade damage properly. The fight continued, but this time Yuna was pushed into a defensive position due to her sword breaking every few clashes. Every new weapon she created survived more blows than the previous ones. More, harder, much harder. It doesn't need to be sharp for now, just hard. Although more and more bloody gashes appeared on Yuna's body, the man fighting her had an ugly expression on his face. He could easily tell that the swords Yuna created from her ice were getting stronger by the second. You damn demon! Are you creating a new technique while fighting me? I will make you pay for your insolence. However, Yuna didn't even hear his words as she put her total concentration into increasing the durability of her swords. More, harder, stronger, more. Yuna's strong willpower was practically radiating out of her eyes at this point as she slowly started overwhelming her opponent. Previously, she could not swing her blade with her full strength, but that was different now. There was no longer a reason to hold back since even if her blade broke, she could simply make a new one, a better one. When the old man realized that he was slowly getting pushed back, traces of nervousness appeared on his face. This wasn't how he expected this to go at all. D-damn demon, what are you doing? You are... impossible. He only realized now that Yuna was pretty much in a trance and was only fighting him while barely giving him any attention. Fear started creeping up the man's back when he realized that. She can already push me back while barely paying me any attention. Wouldn't her be done for as she actually tried? I need to run. Unfortunately, just when he made that decision, Yuna's eyes refocused on him. When he saw her pure white eyes looking at him, he shivered in fear. Oh? It seems like I just had a breakthrough. What? That was as far as he came before Yuna vanished and reappeared behind him while piercing her sword through his heart in the process. Just out of curiosity, do you have a father or grandfather that will come after me to avenge you? However, the old man only managed to say a single word before his consciousness faded away forever. Monster. Yeah, I hear that a lot. Chapter 321, another breakthrough. Karen couldn't help but look at Yuna in awe when she finished her story. Well, at least as far as she could do so considering her current position. Karen would occasionally hear Yuna, Hinata, and Enko talk about places and people she had never heard about. Now that she had affirmed her relationship with Yuna, she could no longer hold back her curiosity and asked the trio what they were talking about. As a result, Yuna told her about her past life just like she did with Hinata and Enko after they asked properly. Yuna only shrugged her shoulders at Karen's sparkling eyes. Well, the past is the past and the future is the present, so I don't really bother about my past life too much anymore. Anyway, any more questions? Karen thought about Yuna's question for a while and then nodded her head. You said you had a perverted maid in your past life as well. Was she more perverted than me? While Hinata and Enko couldn't help but look at Karen weirdly for that almost off-topic question, Yuna chuckled in amusement. Yep, much more perverted. Gah. It was as if Karen was hit by lightning when Yuna confirmed what she had already feared, but moments later, she managed to suppress her frustration from getting bested, and a fire ignited in her eyes. Very well, she might be above me now, but I won't lose. While Hinata and Enko could only facepalm at Karen's words, Yuna nodded in approval. Only by aiming for the apex can you reach it. Yes, Yuna-sama. Although Karen wasn't entirely sure what Yuna was talking about, she felt like Yuna approved of her goal, so she gave her a determination-filled answer. A short moment of silence later, a smirk appeared on Yuna's face, and she started talking again. "Hee, seems like your resolve will be tested right away, Karen." At first, Karen had no idea what Yuna was talking about, but her face paled after using her sensing ability to feel out her surroundings. Moments later, someone knocked on the door. "It's me, Natsuko. Karen didn't come home yesterday, so I wonder if she stayed here, Yuna-sama." "Haha, mother-in-law, no need to be a stranger, come in." Karen and Natsuko were both stunned by Yuna calling Natsuko mother-in-law, but Natsuko regained her composure and entered the room before Karen could react. The moment she entered, "What are you doing to my daughter?" She saw a scene she certainly didn't expect to see. Karen, her daughter, was currently on all fours on the ground, while Yuna was resting her legs on Karen's back. "Haha, what do you mean, Natsuko? I'm just using her as a leg rest." Natsuko's anger was about to explode even more violently when Karen interrupted her. "Mom, please don't interrupt my rule." Cough, punishment. "I made a mistake, so Yuna-sama is punishing me right now." "Oh? If you want, we can stop now, I don't mind." "That won't be necessary." "Ah, Dan." Karen wanted to talk her way out of the situation, but as soon as Yuna offered her to stop, Karen's instincts kicked in, and she denied Yuna's offer by reflex. Natsuko facepalmed when she realized what was going on. Her daughter's preferences weren't exactly a secret to her, but she didn't expect it to be this bad. The first thing Natsuko noted was obviously Karen's position, but now that she was over that shock, her eyes wandered over Karen's body, and the more things she saw, the more her face fell. "A little bit of your butt can be seen from my position, it seems to be rather red. Yesterday I fell on it wire. Yesterday I spanked it until it was glowing red." Karen quickly came up with an excuse for her red butt, but Yuna cut her off before she could finish speaking. "There seem to be some markings on your wrists." "Ah, that happened when I tied her to the bed frame yesterday evening." Yet again, Natsuko noticed some markings on Karen. However, this time it was Anko who interrupted Karen's excuse instead of Yuna. Natsuko looked from Yuna to Anko, who had amused smirks on their faces, to Karen, who was blushing furiously, and sighed again. "It seems like there is a bite mark on your shoulder. That eyes from I was bitten by her." This time, it seems like Karen was incapable of coming up with an excuse, but neither was there someone who said the actual cause. Natsuko, yet again, glanced at the couch where Yuna, Anko, and Hinata were sitting and couldn't help but be surprised by what she saw. Yuna and Anko were both smirking at Hinata, who was currently blushing furiously while hiding her face behind her hands. I don't know. It just happened in the heat of the moment." This time, Natsuko was genuinely shocked. She was not surprised that Yuna and Anko would do stuff like that, but never expected Hinata to do the same. Natsuko rubbed her temples a little to counter the incoming headache and heaved a deep sigh. "Fine, whatever, you did consent to what happened, didn't you, Karen?" Karen lowered her head as shame threatened to overwhelm her, but moments later, she gritted her teeth and looked into her mother's eyes with a serious expression. Well, as serious as the expression of someone who is currently being used as a footstool could be. "Yes, I did, and I want to stay by Yunasama's side." Well, did she just confess to her mother that she likes getting spanked, tied up, and bitten? That's pretty hardcore. Everyone in the room looked at Yuna in shock when she said those words. The current scene seemed to be developing into some kind of weird mother-daughter bonding moment, but that feeling evaporated rather quickly after Yuna verbally assassinated Karen like that. Although Hinata-sama has quite the sharp tongue, Yuna-sama's is still the best tilde. Naturally, those words were spoken by Karen, whose eyes were now glazed over while looking into the distance. Everyone was looking at her in bewilderment except for Yuna, who nodded in approval. Congrats on the breakthrough. Natsuko, who no longer had any clue what was going on, decided it was time for her to go. She had seen enough outrageous things for one day. Whatever, I will be leaving now. Karen, it would be great if you could come over for dinner tonight. There are a few things I would like to talk about. When Karen heard her mother say her name, she woke up from her trance and nodded her head in acknowledgement. Okay, Mom, I will be home for dinner. Moments later, Natsuko left the room, and Yuna immediately asked Karen a question. Well, what did you think about the situation that just happened? It was the most humiliating experience in my life. Hee, that wasn't the question. Karen shuddered when she felt Yuna's piercing purple eyes on her and only now noticed that something wet was flowing down her legs. I'm ridiculously turned on right now. Yuna laughed out loud when she heard Karen's words. Ha ha ha, very well, time for another round. Don't worry, I will make sure that you are home for dinner, Karen. Hee, but I won't make any guarantees about the condition you will be in. While Hinata and Anko paled a little when they heard that Yuna wanted to go another round, Karen had an excited gleam in her eyes, which was noticed by Hinata and Anko. When the duo realized that Karen appeared to be good to go again, they glanced at each other and nodded their heads. Moments later, blue markings appeared around Hinata's eyes and red ones around Anko's. Both of them needed the stamina boost to keep up with Yuna and Karen's insane stamina. Chapter 322, Hiring Another Maid. Anko was currently walking through the corridor of the T&I department in a good mood. The night she spent with Yuna, Hinata, and Karen checked many of her fetish ticks, so how could she not be in a good mood? Although she certainly enjoyed her time with Yuna and Hinata, Karen was an additional spice in the mix that elevated the fun to another level. Hinata definitely leaned towards the M side, but she was into the softer stuff, and while Anko did not doubt that Yuna would allow her to live out her more extreme fantasies if Anko asked, that would come at a cost. Just like Anko, Yuna was definitely a sadist, but Yuna had no qualms surrendering control to someone else. Well, at least in bed, she did. Unfortunately, that would always come at a price. Anko couldn't help but shiver when she remembered how Yuna toyed with her body after doing the same to her on their first night together. Anyway, that was where Karen came into the picture. Karen liked pain, and Anko enjoyed dishing it out. So, when Anko saw Yuna spanking Karen, a new fantasy awoke in her mind that she wanted to live out Yuna and Anko spanking two people together at the same time. Hee, Tayuya, was it? Naruto told me that Yuna spanked her once before and that she really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to meeting her. I wonder why Yuna hasn't picked her up yet. Oh well, I guess she had more important things to do. A few minutes later, Anko could hear someone playing the flute a few rooms ahead, causing a dangerous glint to appear in Anko's eyes. Hee, I wonder how Hinata will react when I pick up another woman for Yuna's harem. I can't wait, Tilda. Meanwhile, Tayuya was sitting in her cell and was playing the flute. Considering she spent all day sitting in prison, her life wasn't exactly the greatest over the course of the past 2 years, but she still enjoyed it more than her life when she was still in Otodakure. Since she happily gave away all the secrets she knew about Orochimaru, she was treated decently enough. She got 3 meals a day, and after the intel she gave away was proven to be accurate, even her flute was returned to her. Naturally, Orochimaru's curse seal was removed as well, which was probably the most tremendous boon for her. Right now, she would simply spend her time lazing around while occasionally practicing with her flute. Not the most exciting life, but Tayuya didn't mind. It was still better than constantly fearing for her life due to the leader of her village being crazy. Moments later, the door to her cell opened, which surprised her a little. After all, it wasn't mealtime yet, and except for that, she was pretty much left alone. When Anko came through the door with a predatory-looking smile on her face, Tayuya immediately paled. Why is Anko Midarashi here? Even if I did not cooperate and they had to torture me for information, there is no way Konoha's #1 in physical torture would bother with someone as unimportant as me. You must be Tayuya, right? No need to get nervous, I just want to ask you a few additional questions. If you answer them properly, nothing will happen to you. Bring it, shithead. Unfortunately for her, Tayuya still had a rather loose tongue, and as soon as those words left her mouth, she regretted it. When she cursed too much in Yuna's presence, Yuna only gave her a spanking. Although it was humiliating and hurt, Tayuya did not doubt that Anko wouldn't mind putting her through much more than that. However, Anko didn't mind being cursed at. In fact, she was pretty happy about it. Either Tayuya was completely retarded to curse her in this kind of situation, or she simply couldn't control herself, just like Naruto claimed. This would give Naruto's story a little more credibility, and considering Tayuya seemed to be regretting her words, the second case was likely the truth. My, what a dirty mouth, but this is exactly why I am here. Although Tayuya wasn't sure what Anko meant by that, she was relieved that Anko apparently didn't mind being cursed at. Oh well, let's get the interrogation started. After cursing too much and getting pulled into the forest by Yuna, what did she do to you? Huh? You heard me. Naturally, Tayuya was utterly bewildered by that question. So far, pretty much all the questions she had to answer were about Orochimaru or stuff like her origin and abilities, so she couldn't help but wonder where this kind of off-topic question came from. Is it really necessary to answer that? Yes, it is of utmost importance. Although Tayuya was somewhat reluctant to say what happened when she saw Anko's serious expression, she decided to just say it. No need to get into trouble just because she was a little embarrassed after all. She spanked me. Anko eagerly nodded her head when Tayuya answered how she wanted her to and asked her the next question. Did you enjoy it? Tayuya yet again gave Anko a weirded-out look and answered the question. No. Are you on drugs? Why in the world would I enjoy getting spanked? Anko's smile stiffened when she heard Tayuya's answer. This was not how she expected this to go. She thought about the situation for a moment before her expression became ugly. Naruto, that little brat actually tricked me. He will pay for this. I might not have his skills in pranking people, but I can just seduce Yuna into helping me. Naturally, she will see through that but will help anyways because she will think that it will be fun. Just you wait, my revenge will be swift and deadly. While Anko was murmuring something to herself that Tayuya couldn't understand, Anko's facial expression became more devious by the second. Although Tayuya wasn't exactly sure what was going on, she decided to speak up, for now, hoping that whatever Anko was currently planning didn't involve her. Is that all you wanted from me? Anko awoke from her contemplation when she heard Tayuya's voice and started thinking about her fate instead. Well, she might not be into it, but Yuna has already punished her once for swearing, and considering how loose her tongue is, there will definitely be more chances to do so. Oh well, might as well give it a try. Are you interested in becoming Yuna's maid? Are you crazy? Why would I do that? To answer your first question, I'm part of Yuna's harem. As for the second one, because you would be freed from here. The first part certainly answered quite a few of the questions I had in my head at once. As for the second part, so what? I'm living somewhat decently right now, and I have no desire to plunge headfirst into whatever that insane woman is doing. In that case, how about I sweeten the deal by telling you that I killed Orochimaru a while ago? Tayuya completely froze up when she heard Anko's words. Orochimaru was actually one of the reasons why she would rather not leave Konoha's prison. Even if he somehow managed to invade Konoha, he certainly would have better things to do than to break into the prison just to kill her. But if she were to walk freely, it would be incredibly easy for Orochimaru to kill her for betraying him. Is he truly dead? I burned him and his blood clone to ashes almost at the same time. I don't know if he had even more ridiculous backups and is still alive somehow, but he wouldn't dare to enter Konoha even if he is. Yuna and I made it very clear that he is no match against us, and there is no way he would dare to invade Konoha just to get rid of you. Tayuya staggered back a little when she heard that Orochimaru appeared to be truly dead. She herself didn't notice how much of a burden his existence was to her, and now that he was dead, she felt incredibly relieved. I might as well mention this too. You would not be Yuna's only maid. Karen Uzumaki decided to serve as her personal maid and has been enjoying the job since then. Naturally, Yuna treats her well and never does anything to her that she would not like. Tayuya's expression relaxed a little when she heard that there would be someone else as well. Tayuya didn't dare to imagine what kind of degrading acts Yuna would make her do, but since there was another person that was treated well, everything should be fine, right? Additionally, she really wanted to get out of this place. She didn't mind being in here, but if the alternative was being free and not having to fear Orochimaru's presence, the choice was rather obvious. All right, I agree under the premise that you didn't lie to me about the other person serving Yuna. Haha, no worries. As I've said, Yuna never did anything to Karen that Karen herself wouldn't want. Tayuya nodded in acknowledgement and decided to take Anko's offer. If someone else is already working as a maid and that person is satisfied, it can't be that bad, right? Chapter 323, Meeting the Harem. A short while later, Tayuya walked out of Konoha's T&I department as a free woman with a weird expression on her face. Wasn't that a little too easy? Anko chuckled in amusement when she heard Tayuya's question and answered her. Not really. Since the Uzumaki clan will take responsibility for your behavior from now on and you haven't hurt a single person from Konoha, there really was no reason to keep you imprisoned. Naturally, if you do something illegal, the Uzumaki clan will not protect you indefinitely. Tayuya nodded her head in acknowledgement and continued walking by Anko's side. After walking for a few minutes, she remembered something else and started talking again. Well, is it possible for Kidomaru and Jirobo to get released as well? Anko pondered on Tayuya's question for a moment before she asked a question of her own. Who? The fat guy with stupid-looking orange patches of hair on his head and the widow with 8 arms. Anko contemplated some more before she nodded her head in acknowledgement. Yeah, I think I have heard of them before. I will have to ask Yuna for that one. Casually throwing the Uzumaki name around to get one person free is still fine, but I shouldn't overdo it. A small smile appeared on Tayuya's face when she heard that Anko would try to get those 2 free as well. She wouldn't really call them her friends, but they were at least part of the same team, so she wanted to try to help them at least. Naturally, Seikan and Yukon were imprisoned as well, but she couldn't care less about that duo. After all, they tried to kill her after she decided to betray Orochimaru. A while later, Anko and Tayuya reached the Uzumaki compound, and Tayuya couldn't help but sigh in relief when she saw the vibrant atmosphere. Considering she was imprisoned the whole time, she had very little information about what happened on the outside, but gathering information about Yuna wasn't hard at all. Many people were talking about her, so Tayuya had a pretty good idea about her character by now. So, she was a little afraid of what kind of place the Uzumaki compound would be, but after seeing everyone smiling happily, her stress level was reduced significantly. However, just after passing the entrance gate, it started rising again because when Anko told the guard that Tayuya wanted to become Yuna's maid, they gave her shocked looks before looking at her like she was a pervert. Somehow, I have a bad feeling about this. Haha, no worries. Yuna is known for being pretty quirky, so they must have thought it was weird for someone to become her maid voluntarily. Although Tayuya nodded her head, she still wasn't entirely convinced about Anko's claim. Whatever, how bad could it be? Since everyone in the compound seems to be happy, it is rather unlikely for her to be a tyrant. A short while later, the duo reached the most prominent building in the compound and entered it without any of the guards bothering them. After walking through a few corridors and up a few stairs, they finally reached their destination. Well, here we are, Tayuya. Before Enko could advise her to knock first, Tayuya nodded her head and opened the door. Smack. MHH thank you for the reward, Yuna-sama. And then immediately closed it again. Without a moment of hesitation, Tayuya turned around and started running. Unfortunately for her, before she could take the second step, a hand landed on her shoulder, stopping her from running away. Damn it, let me go, you shithead. You lied to me. You said Yuna treats her maid well. Hee, what are you saying? I never lied to you. I said Karen has been enjoying her job and that Yuna never did anything to her she didn't like. Karen is a pervert that gets off by getting punished, so every time Yuna does something to her, Karen actually enjoys it. Isn't that right, Karen? While Tayuya was trying to run away, Karen had opened the door with an annoyed expression on her face. Anko-sama, please don't talk bad about me behind my back. Tayuya was shocked by Karen's normal reaction. By now, she was absolutely certain that everyone in this house would be a widow, but it seems like she had to revamp that opinion. While Tayuya was thinking, Karen slung her arms around her waist and started wiggling around. If you want to talk bad about me, you should say it into my face, preferably while other people are watching as well, Gu-hee-hey. Or maybe not. While Tayuya felt despair slowly creeping up her back, Anko chuckled in amusement and shrugged her shoulders. Hee, sorry about that. I wanted to try out a new rope binding technique. How about I try it on you tonight as compensation? Karen's eyes shone in delight when she heard Anko's suggestion. Yes. I can't wait. Tayuya really wanted to cry right now, but there were more important things to do. She had to get out of here. No matter how she looked at it, staying in prison was much better than working in this house filled to the brim with insane people. I just decided that I would rather stay in prison. Anko looked at Tayuya and lifted her eyebrow before shaking her head with an amused smile on her face. It's cute that you think you could get out of here after getting this far. Huh? Hee, there is no escape. What are you talking about? Well, the Uzumaki clan guaranteed for you, so you obviously can't just leave. In no way. When Enko saw despair filling Tayuya's eyes, she could only shake her head. Geez, you are exaggerating. Just stay here for a few days and everything will work out somehow. Worst case, we will look for another job that you can take. Tayuya sighed in relief when she heard Enko's calming words. She just wanted to thank her when a blade pierced through Anko's back and came out of her front. Moments later, a cold, wicked voice that gave Tayuya goosebumps echoed through the hallway. Anko, why are you bringing in more women again? The Anko standing before Tayuya poofed into a cloud of smoke, and another appeared behind Tayuya with a relaxed smile. Hee, don't be like that, Hinata. Don't we need reinforcements in the bedroom? Yet again, a blade pierced through Anko, causing her body to explode into a smoke cloud that filled the whole hallway, making it impossible to say. That might be right, but it still doesn't make me happy, so let's fight. I want to beat you up. Ha, all right, it's been a while anyway. Let's go. Meanwhile, Tayuya was almost suffocating from the pressure flooding the hallway. Worst of all, she hadn't even managed to see the person who just killed Anko twice, and now she couldn't see anything at all while the sounds of two people clashing rang through the corridor. Meanwhile, Karen was hit by the pressure the two released as well, but she wasn't bothered by it in the slightest. Hinata-sama is so domineering, I wish she were like that in the bedroom more often. Meanwhile, Tayuya, who heard Karen's words, had only one thought. I need to get out of here. Chapter 324, The New Maid. Yuna was currently sitting on a couch while petting the head of a massive fox that was lying on her lap and was looking at the people in front of her with an annoyed expression. The fox, on the other hand, was looking at them smugly. So, yet again, you destroyed part of the Uzumaki compound while fighting each other. Seriously, if you want to fight, then do so in one of the many training grounds we have. Hinata and Enka, who were currently sitting in the seiza position on the ground, awkwardly averted their gazes when they heard Yuna's words. In fact, this wasn't even the first time this happened. When the two get too excited, they tend to forget everything around them and just start fighting each other. Sigh whatever. 1 month of no cinnamon rolls for Hinata and 1 month of no danga for Enka. In no way. Oh? Are you not satisfied? If you want, we can increase the time a little more. Hinata and Enko both paled before quickly shaking their heads. We are satisfied, Yuna. Yuna nodded her head with a contented smile on her face. Very good. On a side note, why are you kneeling next to them, Karen? As far as I know, you weren't involved in the fight at all. Karen, who was kneeling on the ground next to Hinata and Enka, blushed a little before answering Yuna's question. Well, I thought that since Hinata-sama and Enko-sama are going to be punished, I might sneak in a punishment for me as well. Yuna's eyebrows rose at Karen's answer, and after pondering for a moment, she shrugged her shoulders. Sure, why not? Let's do something fun in the bedroom tonight. Karen's eyes shone in excitement as she eagerly nodded her head. Next, Yuna's eyes fell on the only person who hadn't said anything yet. Tayuya, who was sitting on the couch opposite of Yuna while watching the scene unfolding in front of her with an awkward expression. If I remember correctly, your name was Tayuya, right? What can I do for you? Tayuya nodded her head and was just about to answer when the fox lying on Yuna's lap interrupted her. You really have a selective memory when it comes to the names of women and men, huh? Although that is true, it would be kind of weird for me to forget her name since I spanked her but once. Tayuya blushed in shame, but a short moment later, that shame was forgotten due to the dangerous glare Hinata was giving her. Additionally, Karen was looking at her with a competitive gaze that sent shivers down her spine. Damn it, now that pervert thinks that I have the same interests as her. Why in the world does she look at me like she wants to challenge me to some seriously fed-up competition? Yuna, can we get up now? Yuna simply nodded her head and motioned for Hinata and Enko to sit down next to her, which they immediately did. Karen would have probably done the same, but she currently had a perverted expression on her face and fantasized about what will happen at night. Hinata was just about to start petting Kurama as well when he stood up and walked towards the door at a quick pace. I'm needed somewhere else, gotta go. Before anyone could say anything else, Kurama left the room while Hinata's hand was still hovering above the place where his body was a few seconds ago, resulting in a pout appearing on her face. Yuna chuckled in amusement and put her attention back on Tayuya. Well, Tayuya was just about to say that she was simply looking for a job inside the Uzumaki compound, but Anko had other plans. She is here to become your maid, Yuna. And no, why? Oh? Okay, you're hired. Just like that. No, more importantly, I don't WA. Ha ha ha, isn't that great, Tayuya? You were hired just like that. Tayuya glared at Anko, who couldn't help but smirk a little after repeatedly blocking off Tayuya's escape attempts. A deep sigh escaped Tayuya. Damn, she really wants to push that position on me, huh? Should I just take it? Well, somehow I don't think I have much of a choice in that regard. In fact, didn't Yuna already say that I'm hired? She probably wouldn't be happy if I were to say anything else suddenly. Shit. Sigh effort, I accept. Suddenly, a dangerous aura started covering Tayuya. No, in fact, it was two different auras. One from Hinata and the other one from Yuna. The first to speak was Yuna. Tayuya, I believe we discussed your cursing habits, no? I wonder if we need to have another private discussion. A chill went down Tayuya's spine as cold sweat started flowing down her back. And no, that won't be necessary. That one accidentally slipped out. It won't happen again. Geez, what are you doing? That would have been such a good chance to receive a punishment from Yuna-sama. What a disappointing performance. Tayuya glanced at the still kneeling Karen for a second and then decided to ignore her completely. Tayuya had no clue how her head worked and would rather not find out either. Moments later, the pressure on Tayuya was reduced due to Yuna retracting her aura. Although Tayuya was relieved, she still couldn't relax entirely due to Hinata pressuring her. Well, it seems like you managed to weasel yourself in here, but let me tell you this before you get any false ideas. If you think that you can casually join Yuna's harem just because you became her maid, then you're entirely wrong. When Hinata finished her speech, Tayuya looked at her blankly before she answered her. Are you crazy? Why in the world would I want to join her harem? You don't. You didn't fall for Yuna when she gave you that spanking. Bang! Tayuya's fist hit the table in anger as she started glaring at Hinata. Damn it, why do all of you mad women assume that I enjoyed the spanking? You didn't. Tayuya's eyebrow twitched in irritation when Hinata and Karen looked at her like she was the weirdo in this conversation. Damn, you bitches are completely crazy. As soon as those words left her mouth, Tayuya paled. Tayuya-chan. A shiver went through Tayuya's spine, and without a second of hesitation, she stood up and shot towards the window. Unfortunately for her, before she could reach it, Yuna appeared in front of her and hit her stomach with 5 glowing fingers, immobilizing her instantly. Yuna casually caught the falling Tayuya, put her over the shoulder, and warped back to the couch. Well, it's spanking time, Tayuya-chan. In no way. I at least do it in private, please. Nah, I don't mind spanking you while people are watching. But I mind. Yuna casually ignored Tayuya's complaints, sat down on the couch, and put Tayuya over her lap. She was just about to start when Enko interrupted her. Please wait a moment, Yuna. Tayuya was surprised that Enko interrupted Yuna. Enko was the last person she expected help from. Unfortunately, she was utterly wrong in her assumption that Enko would actually help her. Recently, I got the fantasy of spanking someone while you do the same to someone else. Since now is a good chance, I would like to live out that fantasy now. When Tayuya heard Enko's words, everything clicked together as rage started flooding her body. You damn bitch. This is why you wanted me to become a maid. I will kill you. Hee, are you sure it is a good idea to swear in your current position? Yet again, Tayuya paled, but Yuna's following words made her calm down a little. I will allow this one. Although I don't appreciate you calling one of my women a damn bitch, I can at least understand why you would say that from your point of view. As for your fantasy, you will have to ask Karen for that one, Anko. Please wait a moment. Since you know that I was tricked, how about letting me go? Yuna couldn't help but chuckle in amusement when she heard Tayuya's words. What kind of nonsense are you saying, Tayuya? This is an entirely different matter. Whether you become my maid or not, this is a punishment for swearing too much and has nothing to do with being my maid. Despair started flooding Tayuya's body when she heard Yuna's words. It appeared that there would be no escaping this. Meanwhile, Karen started contemplating whether she should accept or not. Honestly, if it were just Enko in the room, she would probably reject. At the end of the day, the object of her desire is still mostly Yuna. However, Yuna was in the room right now, so Karen could already feel herself getting a little excited. A spark of desire flashed through her eyes as her gaze met Enko's. Let's do it. Gah, what the hell is wrong with that damn pervert? Tayuya's outcry was ignored, and moments later, slapping sounds echoed through the room, accompanied by outcries of pleasure from Karen and pain from Tayuya. Chapter 325, Welcoming a Guest. A few months had passed since Tayuya became Yuna's maid, and she was currently standing in the kitchen and was cooking breakfast. Since this job was half forced onto her, she really wanted to complain, but she actually had very little to complain about. Her salary was good, the work was easy, and the people of the Uzumaki clan were very kind. Well, she could probably complain about the spanking she received on the first day and the other ones she earned due to being incapable of keeping her mouth shut. However, Tayuya went through much worse punishments while she was still part of Orochimaru's people, so she could endure them. Naturally, the spankings still hurt like hell, and being forced to stand in the corner after her spankings were over was ridiculously humiliating, especially if Anko was there to tease her or if Karen was there to stare at her red butt with envy. Oh well, at least Anko's words weren't wholly misleading. Except for the spankings, which I get as punishment for swearing, Yuna never did anything to me I wouldn't want. If I could just stop swearing, everything would be fine. Well, fine except for the insanity I occasionally have to endure, but I will manage somehow. Orochimaru didn't exactly have the best state of mind either, and I managed to overcome that just fine. Anyway, after her first spanking a few months ago, she half expected to be forced into sexual activities as well, but that was not the case at all. After Yuna was done spanking her that day, she simply picked up Hinata like a sack of potatoes and left the room, while Anko did the same with Karen. Well, Tayuya had a pretty good idea of what happened afterward and was relieved that she wouldn't have to participate. Moments later, someone knocked on the door. "Excuse me, there is a guest for Yuna-sama." Tayuya's eyebrows rose at such an early guest but opened the door anyway. As soon as she opened the door, her eyes widened in surprise. What is a Hyuga doing here? If I remember correctly, the relationship between Uzumaki and Hyuga is somewhat strained right now. Meanwhile, the guard who brought the guest to the door decided to leave and left everything else to Tayuya. After gathering her thoughts for a short moment, Tayuya started speaking. "Yes, how can I help you?" Recently, Tayuya has become rather proficient in greeting people without immediately insulting them, which she was rather satisfied with. Well, it was either learning how to do it or more spankings, so she really didn't have much choice in that regard. Meanwhile, the Hyuga guest, Hisoka, was surprised due to seeing a familiar face that she never expected to see. "Is that Tayuya? Why is she here? Shouldn't she be dead at this point in time? No, wait a moment. I heard that Yuna-sensei fought Danzo on the day Sasuke left, so maybe he got in the way, and Tayuya never died. Okay, that's possible, but why is she here, and why is she wearing a maid outfit? Whatever, no point in pondering on that right now. I'm here to see Yuna-sensei. I have something important to tell her." "Sensei? As in, you are her student?" Hisoka's eyes became distant when she heard Tayuya's question before she nodded her head. "Yeah, but I was recently promoted to Chunin." "Haha, I did it, you know, I actually did it, you know." "Ha ha ha, and unlike the others, I'm completely fine, you know. No problems at all, you know." Ha ha ha. Tayuya took some distance from Hisoka, fearing that she would start stabbing people anytime soon, and after a short burst of laughter, Hisoka snapped out of her daze and her eyes refocused on Tayuya. "Sorry about that, I spaced out for a second. What were we talking about again?" "My condolences." Hisoka tilted her head in confusion when Tayuya gave her condolences but decided not to bother about that for now. Anyway, my name is Hisoka Hyuga. Is Yuna-sensei already up?" This time, Tayuya's eyes grew distant. "Yesterday evening, the whole building was practically shaking, so she will probably stay in bed a while longer." Hisoka's face flushed a little and awkwardly averted her gaze. "My condolences." Tayuya shook her head to get out of her daze and motioned Hisoka to enter. "Anyway, my name is Tayuya, and I have recently been hired as a maid. How about you wait inside until Yuna-sama wakes up?" Lately, Tayuya even managed to use Summer every time she said Yuna's name. Although Yuna herself didn't care about that, Karen would glare at her every time she called Yuna normally, and Tayuya had to admit that Karen could be pretty intimidating for a pervert. Moments later, Hisoka was seated while Tayuya continued cooking. While Tayuya was busying herself, Hisoka couldn't help but feel a little awkward. Do you mind if I ask you a question? I don't give a rat's I mean, please go ahead. Although Hisoka found it a little weird that Tayuya stopped her cursing mid-sentence, she decided to inquire about that later. Well, since you decided to become Yuna's maid, are you a pervert? Crack. The spatula Tayuya was using to flip around some eggs was crushed in her hand. She slowly turned her head and looked at Hisoka like she would attack her at any moment. I'm not. Like. Karen. She spoke every word slowly and deliberately to really bring home the point, while Hisoka had some sweat flowing down her back due to Tayuya's intense glare. Okay, I'm sorry about that. But I think you can at least understand where I'm coming from with this, right? Tayuya gritted her teeth at Hisoka's words and took a deep calming breath to control her anger. I was tricked into coming here by Anchor, and before I could understand what was going on, I was already hired. The job pays well, and the Uzumaki clan's people are all rather nice, but I don't even know how to describe it. The feeling you want to describe is called the Yuna. It's the feeling when you know that Yuna is nearby and that she will do something crazy soon, but you don't know when or who will be the victim. Tayuya was in a daze for a short moment when Hisoka started speaking, and moments later, she eagerly nodded her head. That's perfect. That's precisely the feeling I meant. Chapter 326, The Hyuga Clan's Attack. Moments later, Yuna entered the room and immediately saw Hisoka and Tayuya happily chatting with each other, causing her eyebrow to raise. Yo, did you come here to seduce my maid, Hisoka? Hisoka blushed a little when she heard Yuna's words before rolling her eyes at her. Please stop spouting nonsense like that, sensei. Oh? Am I wrong? I heard that you told Hinata and Anko that you like red-haired women with strong personalities. I think Tayuya fits that image rather well. Hisoka's blush became more pronounced and she automatically glanced at Tayuya, who was currently smirking at her with an amused expression. Could you stop teasing me, Yuna-sensei? I came here to report something important about the Hyuga clan. Haha, okay, I will stop for now. How about we sit down so we can talk properly? Hisoka sighed in relief and nodded her head. She sat down on a couch, while Yuna sat down on a couch opposite of Hisoka, but before Hisoka could start speaking, Yuna opened her mouth. Come on, Tayuya, sit down as well. You can sit on Hisoka's side. Sensei. Sure. Before Hisoka could understand what was going on, Tayuya activated some seals to preserve the condition of the breakfast she had just cooked and sat down next to Hisoka. Usually, Tayuya had to endure being messed with by Yuna, but now she finally had a chance to mess with someone else, which was a rather satisfying feeling. As for feeling embarrassed due to sitting next to someone who might have a crush on you, Tayuya couldn't care less. She has been Yuna's maid for multiple months now, significantly altering her perception of what she considered embarrassing. Meanwhile, Hisoka's blush became even more pronounced as soon as Tayuya sat down next to her. Despite her embarrassment, Hisoka decided to continue the conversation. Anyway, as I was about to explain, I accidentally overheard the Hyuga clan elders and the patriarch talking to each other. Apparently, they want to start moving against the Uzumaki clan through economic means. Yuna looked at Hisoka in bewilderment when she finished speaking. Seriously? Although I personally don't have a good opinion of Hayasha, I didn't think he would be that stupid. Although I didn't hear the whole conversation, I think the clan elders were pressuring him into that decision. Yuna thought about Hisoka's words for a moment before nodding her head in understanding. I see if it is a bunch of senile old men that only have their worthless pride left, then it might actually be possible for them to make such a stupid decision. Yuna pondered some more before the index finger of her left hand started glowing, and she started drawing a seal in midair. As soon as she was done, she started speaking. Yo, Akane, please send over a report about the recent activities of the Hyuga clan. Hisoka and Taiya had no idea what Yuna was currently doing or who she was speaking to, but to their surprise, someone actually answered her. Oh? As expected of Yuna-sama, you already know that the Hyuga clan is scheming something. I was going to inform you about it later today. I will send you the report right now. Go ahead and thank you. Then, under the disbelieving eyes of Hisoka and Taiya, a scroll popped out of the seal Yuna created and fell into Yuna's lap. Without paying any attention to the duo, Yuna picked up the scroll, opened it, and started reading. MHHH_IC. Of the 9 Hyuga clan elders, 8 agreed to the plan. It seems like they have already sent people to the other prominent clans to ask for support. How cute tilde. Let's see, the Akamichi clan rejected them outright, which is not surprising considering how often they appear at our ramen shops. Nara clan stalled them, which is undoubtedly something Shikako would do so that things wouldn't be too troublesome for him. Rejected, a stalling, rejected. How pitiful tilde. Meanwhile, Hisoka had cold sweat flowing down her back like a river. She came here, thinking that the situation for the Uzumaki clan might become dangerous and that she would deliver important information, but her actions were completely unnecessary. Not only had the Uzumaki clan already gathered information about the Hyuga clan's plans, they even had a detailed report of their actions and even knew who was involved. Hisoka couldn't help but be terrified about the Uzumaki clan's ability to gather information. While Hisoka was shaking in fear and Yuna was reading the report, Taiya couldn't help but be amused by the Hyuga clan's actions. The Uzumakis were the most liked clan in Konoha, while the Hyuga clan was the most disliked, even below the Aburame clan, whose people had insects literally nesting in their bodies. So, if people had to choose which clan they would rather support, it was only evident that they would select the Uzumaki clan. A few moments later, Yuna finished reading the scroll and stuffed it back into the seal that was still floating in midair, resulting in the seal and the scroll vanishing. Oh well, as expected, it's a total failure. I don't even need to do anything. On a totally unrelated note, are you interested in becoming the Hyuga clan's matriarch, Hisoka? Huh? While Hisoka was still thinking about how the Uzumaki clan even managed to gather all that information, Yuna made her a rather unexpected offer. And no, I would rather not. Yuna nodded her head in acknowledgement when she heard Hisoka's answer. Yeah, I expected that. Leading the Hyuga clan would be incredibly annoying. The amount of paperwork a clan head has to do is beyond disgusting, after all. Luckily, I actively participated in the re-establishment of the Uzumaki clan and could redirect most of the necessary paperwork to other positions, so I wouldn't have to do it. That's not what I mean. Didn't you say that one of the elders wasn't happy with the idea of attacking the Uzumaki clan, Yuna-sama? Maybe he would like to be the next clan head. Yuna could only shake her head when she heard Taiya's suggestion. Strictly speaking, that is not a bad idea, but unfortunately, that elder only rejected the idea because he would have rather attacked our clan directly. A weird expression appeared on Taiya's face when she heard Yuna's answer. They should be aware that both of Konoha's Jinchuriki are part of the Uzumaki clan, right? What are they thinking? Unfounded pride and arrogance have always been one of the most common reasons for a clan or organization to collapse. Maybe Neji is interested in the clan head position. Oh? I have read a report about him that said he lost most of his arrogance after Hinata beat him up, so I think he would be a good choice. Meanwhile, Hisoka could only look at Yuna and Taiya in bewilderment. Why is the position of the next Hyuga clan head being chosen by the Uzumaki clan's matriarch and her maid? Oh well, it's not my business anyway. Chapter 327, Supporting the Rise of Another Dao. Hiruzen was currently at home and, who would have thought, was reading one of his favorite books. He was just about to turn the page with a tiny motive when his instincts started warning him of something. A frown appeared on his face as he opened his mouth to begin speaking. What do you want, Yuna? Moments later, Yuna appeared in the middle of the room with an amused smirk on her face. I am impressed, you are getting better at this. Hiruzen ignored Yuna's praise and rolled his eyes. Whatever, tell me why you are here already. Hee, are you sure you want to take that kind of attitude with me? I currently have some more love stories with me. Hiruzen immediately froze up when he heard Yuna's words, and moments later, a loud gulp echoed through the room. I didn't hear anything about a new book coming out. Hee, of course, you didn't. After all, it doesn't have an official release date yet. What do you want? Yuna's smile widened when she heard Hiruzen's questions. Nothing. Bullshit. Before Yuna could finish speaking, Hiruzen interrupted her, causing her to roll her eyes. At least let me finish speaking. Sorry about that. That came out on instinct. Anyway, strictly speaking, I don't want anything from you, I just want to see how far you can go. How far I can go? What is that supposed to mean? Naturally, Hiruzen was confused by Yuna's words, but Yuna already predicted that to happen, so she smoothly continued her explanation. I am someone who enjoys teaching people how to get stronger, but what I enjoy most about that is to see weirdos with weird obsessions surpassing those with more orthodox methods. Like a talentless young man pushing himself hard enough to fight a monster like me due to his obsession with youth. Or a young woman who started training properly very late in her life, almost surpassing the aforementioned man due to her obsessive perversion alone. Or Yuna's deep purple eyes met Hiruzen's, causing him to shiver. An old man who was clearly at the end of his lifespan, managing to gain chakra control far surpassing what he had at his peak. Yet again, a shudder went through his body when he saw Yuna's facial expression. He knew that facial expression very well since he would occasionally have it as well. The face of an old teacher who thought that they had just found a hidden gem in their students. Hiruzen looked into Yuna's eyes that seemed to have aged behind them, far surpassing even Hiruzen himself, and came to a realization. All those years ago when I met Kayan Uzumaki to talk about the re-establishment of the Uzumaki clan, that was you, wasn't it? Yuna's smile widened as she answered Hiruzen's question somewhat indirectly. Who might you be talking about? There is no one named Kayan in my Uzumaki clan. Hiruzen could only smile wryly when Yuna more or less admitted that a person named Kayan never existed. So she really did all of those things when she was just a young girl. How is that even possible? Who or why? Before Hiruzen could finish his question, another question popped up in his mind. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. The Uzumaki clan currently lives in Konoha, and as far as I have heard, Naruto is very fond of them. So, as long as they are in Konoha, Naruto will protect it, and as long as Naruto is willing to protect Konoha, Yuna will do the same. I don't know how she will interpret my question, and she might even get angry due to it, so there is no point in asking in the first place. So, there is only one thing that is truly important now. Is that so? I must be becoming senile. Anyway, can I have the new book now? I need to get the new book. Yuna could more or less interpret what Hiruzen was thinking due to the minuscule twitches in his facial expression, so she could only chuckle in amusement when she heard what type of comeback he decided to give. Of course, here it is. Moments later, a small book appeared on top of the table, causing Hiruzen's instincts to flare. He needed that book. He gave Yuna another glance, and when he saw that she didn't appear to be planning anything, he picked up the book with shaking hands and read the title. Fox Meets Pervert, That name is much more direct than the previous ones. Naturally. After all, this one's content is a little more on the heavy side. Hiruzen's eyebrow rose before he nodded his head in acknowledgement. He was just about to open the book so he could start reading while completely ignoring Yuna's presence when Yuna began speaking again. Oh? It seems you are already satisfied with one. I guess there was no point in preparing a few more then. Hiruzen, who was just about to open the first page, froze in place. A few more? As in more than one? That's right, do you want them? I want them. An earth-shaking roar echoed through Hiruzen's living room after Hiruzen heard Yuna's question. When Yuna handed over the first book, there was still some doubt in his mind that Yuna might use it to bribe him, but now all of that doubt was gone. Or rather, it would be more appropriate to say that he accepted Yuna's bribery and was willing to do whatever she wanted in exchange for those books. Yuna nodded in approval, and with a wave of her hand, a stack of books appeared on the table, causing Hiruzen to drool a little. The book's title on top of the pile was A Meeting of Ice and Fire, which Hiruzen found a little weird since the naming sense was somewhat different from the previous ones, but he didn't mind. Since Yuna gave those books to him, he did not doubt their quality. When Yuna saw that Hiruzen was already engrossed in reading, she nodded in approval. Let me see how far your doubt can bring you, Hiruzen. Unfortunately, Hiruzen didn't even notice that Yuna was still in the room, so he naturally didn't hear her words either, which caused Yuna to laugh out loud in anticipation. How interesting. I'm looking forward to how far he can go despite his age. The masochist pervert Karen vs the reading pervert Hiruzen, indeed an epic battle. I know, right? Ugh, that was supposed to be sarcasm, but whatever. Chapter 328, Internal Conflict. Hayashi Hyuga was currently sitting in his office with a grim expression on his face. Recently, things have been going downhill for him. First, the clan elders half-forced him to attack the Uzumaki clan, and to make things even worse, the plan failed miserably, and somehow the elders decided that it was his fault. Honestly, the only reason he decided to avoid conflict with the Uzumaki was Yuna's words about her ability to activate the Hyuga's curse seal whenever she wanted to. No matter how often Hayashi told himself that Yuna was just bluffing, he simply couldn't get Yuna's thread out of his head. Anyway, despite not wanting to exert pressure on the Uzumaki clan, he didn't even doubt for a second that the Hyuga clan would fail so spectacularly. The Hyuga clan was one of Konoha's first clans. Hayashi was confident that they could rally enough other clans to pressure the Uzumaki clan with roots that deep. However, those supposedly deep roots were utterly rotten. Not a single clan agreed to help the Hyuga clan. Those bastards, we have been allies for such a long time, how can they just reject me like that? Hayashi was about to descend into a fit of rage when he took a deep breath to calm himself down. Damn it, it's not like they don't see us as their allies anymore, it's just that they are not willing to have a conflict with the Uzumaki clan, which they consider their ally as well. Hayashi took another deep breath and sagged on his chair. This is the Hyuga clan's loss. Whether it is military power, economic power, or political influence, we have lost. Hayashi's mind has been fighting his pride for a long time now. Although some doubts started appearing in his mind after the Chunin exam almost 3 years ago, his pride simply crushed all of them. However, now the situation was a little different. He always assumed that if it came to an open conflict with the Uzumaki clan, Konoha's other clans would help the Hyuga clan due to their prestige alone. However, that hope was now crushed. The Hyuga clan's supposedly high prestige was absolutely worthless. At least it didn't come to a war. Let's not talk about helping the Hyuga clan, I feel like quite a few clans would help the Uzumaki clan instead. The worst hit to his pride Hayashi received was surprisingly from one of the clans that gave him a relatively neutral response. The Nara clan. It was only for a split second, but Hayashi clearly noticed that Shikaku's facial expression distorted when he suggested suppressing the Uzumaki clan. For a very short moment after Hayasha made his offer, Shikaku looked at him like he had just suggested the stupidest thing he had ever heard in his life. That gave Hayasha's pride quite a bit of damage. Although Hayasha considered himself to be an intelligent man, he knew that he stood no chance against the patriarch of the Nara clan in that regard, especially when it came to making strategic decisions. If Shikaku just rejected his suggestion, then he could still endure it, but considering that he looked at Hayasha like he was the stupidest man alive for a short moment, Hayasha realized just how badly he messed up. I can only hope that Yuna won't retaliate against the Hyuga clan due to our actions. Well, it's not like we managed to deal any damage to the Uzumaki clan, so it's probably fine. A moment after coming to that conclusion, an ugly expression appeared on Hayasha's face. Will it really be fine? Yuna isn't exactly known to be a reasonable individual, so who knows how she will act from now on. Will the Hyuga clan perish under my rule? Hayasha's facial expression grew worse when he thought about Yuna's retaliation. Will I have to apologize to her? Never. No matter what, that is not something I am willing to do. Although Hayasha's pride took quite a bit of damage, he was still far away from being willing to admit his mistakes. Moments later, someone knocked on the door, and before Hayasha could give permission to enter, 9 people walked into his office, causing Hayasha to frown at the rude behavior. Considering that the 9 people who had just entered were the elders of the Hyuga clan, Hayasha quickly suppressed his frown and looked at them with a neutral facial expression instead. Why are you here? We could have just gathered inside the meeting room if you wanted to meet me instead of my private office. The elders looked at each other for a moment, and after a few seconds of communicating with their eyes, a short man in a brown kimono and long, gray hair stepped forward. We, the elders, have come to a conclusion. Hayasha's frown deepened as he opened his mouth to answer. What are you talking about? I am the Hyuga clan's patriarch. No matter what kind of decision you make, it still needs to be discussed with me first. The first elder to speak nodded his head in agreement at Hayasha's words. Yes, that is indeed the case. That is why we have decided that you are no longer suitable for the position of clan head. Hayasha's eyebrows rose when he heard the elder's words before shaking his head in disbelief. I don't care whether you think I'm suitable or not. Do you think just because you managed to convince me to do what you want once that I will obediently follow whatever you tell me to do? The moment Hayasha finished speaking, the expression on the elders' faces grew fierce, and they surrounded the spot where Hayasha was currently sitting. No, you naturally wouldn't do that. That is why we decided that you will have an unfortunate accident inside your office, and since Neji is still too young to take over the position of the patriarch, we will be ruling the clan from now on. Hayasha's eyes widened in surprise before a fierce expression appeared on his face. You actually dare to start a coup? Are you insane? There is no way the other members of the main family are willing to support you. A sneer appeared on the elders' faces when they heard Hayasha's words, and moments later, the only elder to speak so far answered Hayasha's questions. Too bad, but that is not the case. A lot of people from the main family are unhappy about your weak stance in regards to the Uzumaki clan, so this is the will of most of them. As soon as you are gone, we will get our revenge against the Uzumaki clan and wash away the humiliation we received from them. Hayasha's eyes bulged when he heard the elder's words. He concluded that the Hyuga clan couldn't touch the Uzumaki clan just a few minutes ago, and now something like this happened. Wake up to reality, the current Hyuga clan cannot stand against the Uzumaki clan. They are too influential and too powerful to be messed with by us. Instead of even considering Hayasha's words, the elder in front of him snorted in disdain at his words. How laughable! We are Konoha's oldest, still living clan. There is no way some random upstarts could ever hope to contest against us. The only reason why the Uzumaki clan still exists is because of your indecisiveness in regards to getting rid of them. Before Hayashi could argue any further, the 9 elders released their killing intent at him, causing him to prepare for combat. Kill him. After he is dead, it is finally time to show Konoha just how powerful the Hyuga truly is. Chapter 329, Taking Out the Big Guns. Hisoka and Neji were returning to the Hyuga compound after finishing a mission together. While Neji had a neutral expression on his face, Hisoka was clearly worried about something. Just spit it out already. You have been fidgeting the whole mission, Hisoka. An ugly expression appeared on Hisoka's face when she heard Neji's words, and after a short moment of thinking, she started talking. What do you know about the current situation with the Uzumaki clan? Although Neji was surprised that Hisoka even knew about that, he quickly answered her question. As far as I have heard, there are talks about attacking the Uzumaki clan either through economic means or through actual fighting. Hisoka nodded her head in acknowledgement and continued speaking. And what do you think about that? Neji pondered Hisoka's question before he shook his head with a sad expression on his face. I don't really know about the economic means, but direct conflict is a terrible idea, I think. I'm not really sure if we could win, and even if we could, it would lead to devastating losses. Hisoka couldn't help but chuckle in amusement when she heard Neji's answer. Unfortunately, you are wrong. If the Uzumaki and the Hyuga were to fight, it would end in a one-sided massacre. Or, to be more precise, even if there were 3 Hyuga clients, Yuna and Naruto could claim them up on their own. Neji's steps faltered as soon as Hisoka stopped talking. He could only look at her in disbelief while waiting for Hisoka to continue speaking. That red chakra cloak covering Yuna, you should have seen it during the Chunin exams 3 years ago, right? That is the bane of the Gentle Fist. No matter how much chakra we push into our strikes, breaking through that chakra cloak is impossible. Neji's eyes widened when he heard Hisoka's words. Wouldn't that mean th? Yes, Yuna and Naruto are completely immune to the Gentle Fist. Naturally, that wasn't the whole story. Hisoka knew how powerful canon Naruto became after he befriended Kurama, and this version of him is significantly better trained. And to make matters even worse, Yuna was even more absurd in that aspect. At best, the Hyuga clan had a bunch of jonin and a few elite jonin. Such a small force wouldn't even be enough to threaten one of the twins. While Neji was still speechless due to what he had just heard, the duo entered the Hyuga compound, and as soon as they did, a frown appeared on Hisoka's face. Something feels off. Neji was just about to ask what Hisoka was talking about when he saw a man running towards them at high speed. As soon as the man saw Neji, grief appeared on his face, and he started shouting. Neji, quickly, run away. That person was Hayashi Hyuga, who looked like he had just experienced a fierce battle. He wanted to grab Neji and pull him away, but before he could do so, a cluster of kunai came flying at him, forcing him to stop running and start spinning instead. After his kaiten stopped, an ugly expression appeared on his face due to the 9 people that were now standing around Hisoka, Neji, and Hayashi. Hee, it seems like it's our lucky day. Not only can we get rid of Hayashi today, but we will also be able to get his son. As soon as Neji heard the words from one of the 9 people surrounding them, his face distorted in anger. What is the meaning of this? Why are the Hyuga clan's elders trying to kill the clan's patriarch? Before anyone else could answer Neji's question, Hisoka opened her mouth. Aku, ha. Nasty stuff. The elder who previously spoke frowned when he heard Hisoka speak. What are you butting into the conversations for? Can't you see that your betters are speaking and that it is not the place of someone with an inferior bloodline like you to speak? As soon as he finished speaking, he made a hand seal to activate Hisoka's caged bird seal, causing her to roll her eyes as she started talking with a monotone voice. Oh no, it hurts so much, please stop. Naturally, everyone was dumbfounded by Hisoka's nonchalant attitude, and moments later, everyone understood what was going on. You allowed that monster to modify your seal? To think you would dare to betray the Hyuga clan like this? As soon as the person in front of her stopped talking, Hisoka rolled her eyes yet again. I am betraying the clan. You are currently literally trying to kill the clan head, but I'm the one betraying the clan. I already suspected it, but you bunch have become pretty senile over the years, huh? The people in the vicinity looked at Hisoka in bewilderment. After all, she was always polite to the clan elders and never issued any words of opposition. What? Since you started the coup, there is no way I will continue being polite to you shitheads, right? God, I'm rather happy that I no longer have to pretend to have even a modicum of respect to you senile old farts. After Hisoka finished speaking, the silence was so heavy that even people that stood outside the Hyuga clan compound could feel that something was off inside the compound. Moments later, the 9 Hyuga clan elder regained their wits as their faces twisted in anger. A worthless mutt like you dares to talk to us like this. You will die for this offense. It's funny how you act like you wouldn't have killed me if I didn't say those words. Besides that, I would rather be a mutt than someone whose ancestral tree is a circle. Meanwhile, Hayasha wasn't sure what to do with the current situation. Around a minute ago, those 9 elders were chasing him down to kill him, but that somehow was redirected at Hisoka, who happily kept piling up more insults on the elders. Moments later, the 9 elders had enough of Hisoka's words and adopted a combat stance. They were just about to launch themselves at Hisoka when she put her hand into her weapon holster. Well, how about we all take a step back and calm down before I have to do something none of us will enjoy. Hisoka pulled a pure white kunai that resembled a snowflake out of her weapon holster.